What's up, guys? We got a special video today. This is the beginning of the Star Wars 40th anniversary line, and it also happens to be Toybro's 50th video today. So I figured we'd go a little bit bigger, and today we're going to take a look at the first 5 figures, Wave 1 of the Star Wars Black Series 40th anniversary figures from Hasbro. Alright, so obviously being the 40th anniversary, the big draw here is this new card back style that they're going for with the Black Series. And we've got 5 figures here to start the wave the line off. We've got R2, Han, Leia with the new head sculpt, Luke, and Obi-Wan. All these figures are repacks, with the exception of Leia to a degree because she has that updated head sculpt to fix the grievous mistakes of Hasbro. These all have the vintage style card art from the original 12 figures. So these are all the card art that came out with, you know, little tweaks to make them part of this line and to have warnings on them and things like that. But let's go over them real quick. We'll start with Obi-Wan here. So, you know, we've got the vintage card back. It even says Kenner down here at the bottom, which I think is the best. We've got our 40th logo at the top and the Star Wars logo there. You can definitely tell that this is the old style because they gave Obi-Wan his yellow saber that was you know, one of the mistakes from the original line. And then we can turn it around and you can see we've got kind of our standard Black Series kind of verbiage down here, but then we've also got at the top our kind of the new 12 back and the display we're going to get with Vader. So it shows all of our figures. That's Wave 1, and then Wave 2 starts with the Death Squad Commander, Chewie, Stormtrooper, Jawa, 3PO, and the Tusken Raider, which is called Sand People on the back. And then we've got our new Vader that'll come alone with the display piece. So I think the presentation here is pretty amazing. I'm not sure this is what we needed all along because, you know, these are also built in a way that you cannot really reseal them. They're not collector friendly if you're going to open your toys. So, you know, they've got a flap here and a flap here that's actually taped onto the card. So if you pop this guy off, you're probably going to ruin the card in the process. Next up, we've got Luke with his vintage style card. I'm not going to look at the back again because it's the same for all of them. So there's his artwork. We've got Princess Leia here, which I think is one of the pivotal figures in this wave. We've got Han Solo, and then we've got R2. So, you know, overall, presentation is on point here. They really did a good job with these card backs. They're obviously pretty big, so, you know, displaying them might be a challenge for some. You know, they're, what, about 9 inches tall, roughly, so they're definitely big, but that's what you get with a 6-inch line. So let's start taking a look at the individual figures. All right, now we're going to start with Princess Leia. I think she is probably the most anticipated of this wave. They're all repacks, so we've already got these figures before, or at least you've had the opportunity to get them. Princess Leia, though, has the updated head sculpt because the first one was, you know, absolutely abysmal and did not do Carrie Fisher or the character justice whatsoever. So, you know, like I said, when we kind of went over the packaging, just in general, I'm not opening these. These are specifically for me to display on these amazing card backs. So we're going to use the previous figures to go over articulation and just kind of go over the general aesthetic of the figures. So here is Princess Leia from the previous wave. And, you know, let's pull the other Leia. You can see that the head sculpt is obviously different here. And just the new one, it looks a lot more like Carrie Fisher. So, you know, this one, the paint apps aren't bad, at least. That's a good thing. They're not half bad, but the sculpt is definitely weird. The figure itself still isn't the best, I don't think. So she comes with 2 accessories. We'll go over those real quick. She got the standard kind of Stormtrooper blaster that we see her have in, you know, A New Hope towards the end. And then we've got her with her pistol that we also see her with. Obviously, she has soft goods. And I think that's where a lot of the criticism comes from, especially in this hood. So, I mean, look, there's just way too much fabric there. I should not be able to cover her whole face with it. She's actually articulated pretty well. And, that's just because of the Hasbro way. They don't want to kind of muddy up the figure with unnecessary joints, so they cover them when they can with soft goods. So this is one of the few figures that has double jointed elbows, as you can see. She has a waist twist. She has a bit of a crunch. Her head goes all the way around. She does have a hinge. Her legs go out. They're not really encumbered by the dress. She has double jointed knees. She has a hinge at the ankle. And then she's got the boots on there as well. And they're actually pretty nice. They've got line work in them. They're just white paint, but they look nice. And then the belt is plastic white with the silver accents on it. So the figure itself, from an overall standpoint, not bad. The face, pretty awful. So, I think they owed it to Carrie Fisher, especially at this point, to do this figure correctly and to update that head sculpt. And this one is just, far and away a better head sculpt. So I'm a lot more pleased with this figure than I am with this one. Maybe I'll track down another one of these to open and have the better figure out. But for now, this is the one that's going to be out of the package because I've got to keep this one in. So let's move on and take a look at Obi-Wan next. All right, so here's Obi-Wan, and I'm pretty pleased with this figure. I've got him. I've got the Celebration exclusive from last year. Obviously, I've got the regular release in the black and red box, and we've got the third one. So this is my third Obi-Wan, and they're all the same figure. So this is no different. Like I said before, this guy's staying in. So I finally opened the regular release to take a look at him now. I think the head sculpt is pretty solid. It's a pretty good likeness to Alec Guinness. It's not perfect, they never are, but I think it's pretty good. We've got some shading in that beard. We've got, straight and, correct eyes. They're not derpy. They're not looking all over the place. Hair's got a bit of a wash in it. We do have a mix of plastic and soft goods here. So the overall cloak is soft, and it's not bad. It's not as bad as Princess Leia, but I still think there's a little too much fabric there. But you can get his to rest on his head a bit better than Leia, and I don't think he looks terrible this way. I still might just display it down a bit though. And then we've got the kind of sculpted robes that go all the way down. He does have only single jointed elbows because of the sculpt here though, despite the fact that they're able to hide them. So I think overall his sculpt is good. He's got sculpted pants, sculpted boots. It's all one piece, but he's still got them. He does have double jointed knees, but you're going to have a hard time doing that because he's got a plastic, kind of under robe, whatever you want to call it. So, he's a pretty good figure though. I do like him, and he was one that I was eagerly awaiting just because, it's Obi-Wan. You got to have a nice Episode 4 Obi-Wan, especially after that pretty awful Revenge of the Sith Obi-Wan we got years ago. As far as the rest of the articulation goes, he's got rotation on the head. He can move it up quite a bit, down a little bit, not as much as the up. He does have a swivel at the waist and a bit of a crunch, but not a whole lot. Like I said before, he does have the double jointed knees. You can see that joint on there. He has a thigh cut. He's got normal range of motion for a Black Series figure, but this robe piece here is going to hinder it a lot. So, I don't know what kind of dynamic poses you were planning on putting your Obi-Wan in, but, he's an old man, so he's going to stay in a pretty normal pose for me. And then he's got a rocker and a hinge at the boot. For his accessory, we've got the lightsaber, which has got, obviously a translucent blue blade, and then it's got gold, black, and silver accents on the hilt, and it looks good overall. So as far as the human characters in this wave, I'd say Obi-Wan is probably my favorite. Han would be a second runner-up on that one probably. So let's go ahead and take a look at him. All right, and here's Han, and I think this is one of the stronger figures in the wave, simply because this is a figure that comes from a time when Hasbro seemed to care a little more about the Black Series when it was in its infancy. So this figure comes with a lot of stuff, a lot more than you will see with any current Black Series figure. So let's take a quick look at him, and you can see from the carded figure that he has a bunch of accessories in there. So I'll go over those real quick. He's got his blaster pistol. He's got a stormtrooper rifle. He has got his belt, which is removable. he has got an extra set of hands. He's got gloved and ungloved hands, and then he has another belt, which is actually, I didn't even realize it at first. It's in these. He's got both belts on, and you can see the. You can almost see the other holster on his backside there. So he comes with multiple accessories, and you know, it's just not normal to see that anymore with a Black Series figure. The sculpt on him is also pretty good, and he's just got a lot of detail to him, a lot more than I think we're used to seeing now, which is obviously unfortunate. Head sculpt is pretty solid. I think the hair color is, you know, has always been a bit wrong. You can tell just from the picture here that it's a lighter brown, and this is a dark brown. But beyond that, the figure is pretty solid. So we've got his vest, we've got the belt, we've got the pants, we've got the boots, we've got his collared shirt that's kind of, open at the chest. So it looks pretty good. Likeness isn't half bad. Not a lot of paint apps, which is par for the course with Black Series, but they're also not bad what are there. As far as articulation, head goes all the way around, up and down, arms go out. Full range of motion, single jointed elbows though. We've got rotation, a little bit of a crunch. The legs can go out pretty far. The holster and belt will kind of hinder that a bit. Thigh cut, double jointed knees. And then we've got rocker and a bit of a hinge at the boot. It's kind of tight, but this figure's old, so, well, old at this point comparatively. So, that's our Han. I think he's definitely one of the better figures in this wave, and that, it's partially due to the sculpt and his accessories, and just, it seems like there's a lot more care put into this figure than some of the newer stuff. All right, next up is Luke Skywalker, and I think this is the weakest figure in this wave, and I don't think anybody's going to argue me with that. There's a lot of disdain for this figure for a number of reasons. Cloth goods on this guy I don't think are very good. The soft goods aren't. They make him look too puffy. He's like got a Seinfeld puffy shirt on, so that's a negative. And then the face sculpt is just kind of gruesome. So, take a look at this guy, and there's just not a lot to be happy about there. Now, a lot of that comes from the paint apps or the lack thereof on this figure, and that's kind of the trademark of Hasbro right now, is that we're not getting paint apps on the faces that really make their sculpt stand out. So, no matter what is on there, if the sculpt is good or not, if the paint apps aren't there to accentuate those sculpts, then you have a miss. And I think that's the big problem here. He's got fine articulation. Same thing as Leia. He's got double jointed elbows because he's got soft goods to cover them, and then he's got double jointed knees. So he's okay. Just nothing special, especially for the main character. As far as accessories go, we've got Anakin's lightsaber, pale blue blade with black and red silver accents on the hilt, and then we've got his binoculars, and they can kind of clip onto the belt if you wanted to, and you can also put the lightsaber onto the belt. I mean, this is a nice accessory. I don't know what I'm going to do with it except leave it in the box forever. So he could have been good. I mean, the sculpt is there outside of the face, and if they had used something other than soft goods, I think this figure might have been a lot better. But he was a disappointment when I got him the first time, and he remains a disappointment now. All right, lastly here, we have got who, outside of Leia, has got to be the most anticipated figure because of how rare he is now. R2 was among one of the original figures, so he's an older figure, and his price on the secondary market has gone up quite a bit. So for folks who missed out or weren't collecting at the time, this is the way to get him. So there's a lot of value here in terms of what you're getting just from the fact you don't have to buy him on the secondary market now. Not to mention the fact that he does come with a lot of stuff, and for a Black Series figure, he is, I don't know, he's loaded really. So you can see from the carded figure here, he has various pieces on him. So technically there are 7 accessories with this guy. We have got the we've got his kind of periscope that he uses when he's in the swamp on Dagobah. We've got Luke's lightsaber hilt. We've got 2 pieces that go on the legs that I've got on here now. You can see right there. They're just accents that are part of the leg, but they play a role with another accessory. And then we have his radar dish. Now in the carded figure, you can see that he's got his jetpacks out from the prequels. So those are accessories that are included as well, and you just pop these pieces off and you put those on. The other accessories, the periscope and the radar, they just pop in the top. He's got a hole that you can pop them in. Now, outside of that, I don't know if it's an accessory, but it's a feature for sure. Screw his head, and his other leg comes down. Now, I don't know about you, but that's pretty wild for a Black Series figure. Screw it the other way, and it'll come back up. All the legs are on rollers, so they've all got wheels on the bottom of them, basically. And then his head's ratcheted, so once you've got it all the way up. So, I don't know, that's just really cool to me. I think that was probably one of the most important additions to this character. As far as paint and sculpt, pretty spot on. You know, I mean, this looks like R2. I think it's a little bit out of scale with some of the other figures, but for the most part, I think they kind of nailed this one, especially with all the stuff that you get. So, you know, we've got a lot of sculpted detail, a lot of line work, a lot of paint, metallic paint where it needs to be metallic, flat where it needs to be flat. The body is obviously molded white plastic, but, you know, that little droid is definitely one of the highlights of the early Black Series figures and one of the highlights of this wave for sure. And for people who don't have him, he's got to be, you know, at the top of the list. So overall, what's the verdict on this wave? Obviously, I bought them, so I think that says a lot. When I first heard that these were coming out, that this was the rumored 40th anniversary type of release, I was a bit disappointed. I was like, well, I've already got all these figures. I have bought Black Series from day one. I don't really need these again. And then when they showed them at Toy Fair, that immediately went out the window, and I was chomping at the bit to get a hold of these because they looked so much better than I had thought they were going to. And then, of course, I bought them the minute that they went online at Hasbro Toy Shop to get them first. Now, all of the figures are repacks. There are new figures coming in the next wave, and then we're getting a new Vader, and we're getting the stand. So I think the end result, the final package, is going to be pretty amazing. So I don't think I could have resisted no matter what. Leia is the only figure that I think is a must-have, just because of that new head sculpt. But you know, if you're a full-on Star Wars collector, you're not going to pass these up, and I don't see how you could really. So there are a few misses in this wave. I mean, Leia's not the greatest figure. The head sculpt is much better, but she's still not anything special. Luke is not a very good figure. Obi-Wan's a pretty good figure. Han's a good figure. R2 is a good figure. So, you know, as far as figures go, they kind of run the gamut. But as a presentation, as an overall package, I think that these carded figures are pretty amazing. Like I said when we went over packaging, I don't particularly care for how the bubbles attach to the card. But I think these are meant more for, you know, people who are going to keep them in the package. I know some folks are going to take them out, and that's not what I'm going to do. But, you know, I couldn't bring myself to destroy these cards, so they're definitely not getting opened. And I do like everything about the presentation. I'm looking forward to the next wave. I'm really looking forward to Vader. So I'm really interested to see where the whole package goes, what it all looks like when we kind of bundle it all together. So stay tuned for more. Once those come out, I will get them as soon as possible and share my thoughts with you all. So as always, stay tuned to Toy Bro for more reviews. Feel free to like, comment, subscribe, and share. And until next time.